So the big question is, are esports sports? And I always give it a smell test. If it smells like sports, tastes like sports, looks like sports, it's probably sports. So quickly looking at it, I did a quick take view, a quick flyover, and said, well, what is it? Well, you have professional e-gamers who are rivaling sports stars in online followings. We have players that are personalities. E-tournaments, they're rival viewing figures of sport events. Sounds like sports. Advertising and sponsorships are following audiences and investing in esports. So advertising, sponsors, the Coca-Colas, the Intels, the NVIDIAs of the world are jumping in. It takes practice and skills to be a professional e-gamer. So you need skills. Not everyone can do it. So there's a professional status to it. Esports are starting to follow the standard sports model of a league. There's game-specific leagues. There's also general leagues, but there's lots of them being formed, both country-specific and worldwide. And and those leagues are having a limited number of teams. So it's starting to sound like regular sports leagues. And traditional sports teams, venue ownership groups are investing in these teams and leagues. So what is the definition of esports? I thought it was pretty simple, so I wanted to put one up on the screen. It's known as various things, as electronic sports and esports and competitive video gaming, professional gaming, pro gaming. But it's really a form of competition that is facilitated by video games. Most commonly, esports takes the form of organized multiplayer video games competitions, particularly between professional players. Sounds like sports. So are e-gamers athletes? Well, they are in some sense. They may not have the physical prowess, but they have other physical attributes which athletes have. So just looking at followers, well, the quick look on the internet, some of this list also shows actual teams, but it's showing that millions of people are following specific teams and specific players, and the numbers are only growing. Are they getting injuries? Well, here's a post of a player who said, hey, I did have an injury, I'm making progress, but still not 100%. So right now, there's no central source for injury reports, but Newzoo, an organization that studies esports, reports that gaming injuries are gradually a growing problem and something that teams are trying to combat by hiring relevant staff as well as training and education. Again, just like a team has trainers, conditioning coaches, and educators. Are there scandals? Well, apparently there are some scandals out there, and the leagues and the teams are looking to rectify that by creating boards or independent advisory groups. For example, the WESA, which is the World Esports Association, their motto is that we're going to further professionalize esports by introducing elements of player representation, standardized regulations, and revenue sharing for teams. Again, sports. Practice. Esports teams will practice 12, 15, 20 hours a day. We hear about these people going on Twitch and spending anywhere from 3 hours to 24 to 48 hours playing games. Some of it is for obviously to gain followers and to sell, to help their sponsors. But they do practice, they do work, and they do study techniques, and they watch videos of their opponents, and they learn like teams. There's money. There's lots of prize money in this, and it's only growing. It seems small maybe compared to European football, soccer, or NFL, or rugby or cricket, but there is money. So teams are earning just in the last year or two close to $20 million on a team basis, and individual players are earning large sums of money, and they're good. And you can see by the flags, this is an international phenomenon. It includes players from just about every country in the globe today. Audience and events. These are growing by leaps and bounds year over year. If you just take a look at it, and I pulled some data from the United States and was comparing it to TV viewership, and the League of Legends Championship not only sold out the Staples Center in 2013, then sold out the 40,000-seat World Cup Stadium in Seoul, and is drawing an audience of 27 million people. And if you look at that number, that's more TV viewership than the final round of the Masters. And again, in the United States, the Masters is an important golf tournament. League of Legends is, generating more, and even more than the NBA Finals and the World Series, and dwarfed the Stanley Cup Finals in the United States. So e-gaming is driving viewers. Most of this is online, but hey, soon enough, it'll be an app on your smart TV. YouTube, just looking at the number of gaming streams that They have more viewers or more streams than news, movies, and education combined. So gaming is making a large impact, and we all see how many team owners, wealthy individual sporting athletes from soccer and from football and basketball are investing in teams because they see it as the future. Here's a picture of selling out the SSE Arena in Wembley by League of Legends. So this is not small. The production quality of these events is rivaling any sport. Here's the Beijing National Stadium, also known to most of us who watch the Olympics as the Bird's Nest Stadium, and they sold out 91,000 people to watch a final for the League of Legends World Championship. This just happened a couple of weeks ago. So it is filling up stadiums, and some stadiums are selling out in minutes, not in hours, not in days, not in weeks. It's just like a final, final for a traditional, what we would call, sport. Is esports a business? Well, revenues are growing year over year, and investors and sponsors are jumping in. If you look, Coca-Cola has invested in it, and we look at two types of sponsors in esports. You have what we call the endemic sponsors, and that's on the right of the screen, like Intel, NVIDIA, Alienware, which is a Dell brand. They're selling to gamers, but now we see large traditional sports sponsors jumping in. And this is where Coca-Cola was sponsoring Riot Games and sponsoring eSport Weekly. Other brands like T-Mobile and others have taken notice and are jumping into it. So it is probably one of the fastest growing areas of sponsorship from a growth perspective. Not total dollars, but growth. Just to give you a quick look at what is the consumer market for this, and as you can see that by 2019. Revenue is expected to be $1.2 billion. It's phenomenal, the growth, the speed of the growth of it. The audiences are growing, matching. If you look, there's numerous games that are out there, but if you just look at the number of players worldwide, there's 1.4 billion registered gamers, and most of them are focused on the most, what I would call, popular competitive esports titles, like League of Legends and Dota 2 and Overwatch League. Just to give you an example, League of Legends alone has over 250 million players. It's amazing. And I'm kind of going to wrap up here that, do sports happen overnight? Do things get accepted overnight? Well, I took a look at history. And if you look back just 15, 20 years ago, extreme sports faced similar skepticism when they began in the early 90s. TV coverage was small and started growing. There wasn't a lot of online viewership. Now there's more of that. But the X Games have grown from a small beginning, and many of the sports now, like snowboarding, are being featured in the Olympics. So what wasn't considered a sport is now considered a sport. And I believe e-gaming will be the same. So my answer to the question is, resistance is futile. Esports are sports. It is massive, and it's only growing. Thank you.